Word to cloud. Start over. No, this should look very familiar. It's the new budget form that we developed based on input from Octane during the last RFP. It's very similar to ones we've been using in the past. We've really tried to dial in on what is easiest for everyone. This is the same form you would use for a modification. You just add columns as needed. Not every program does a modification every year. And I know it was kind of confusing having the columns in place already. So for this one, we have kind of laid out on here your 3 funding streams. So adult ed comes when you get an allocation. You have your federal funding. We talked about that this morning, state funding, and then you have your local match funds. All 3 of those categories are broadly AFLA funds. They're all governed by Edgar. We talk about Edgar a lot. We've had Bruce Dean come in a couple times, talk about things that you can and can't do financially with money. We're going to get into that piece a little bit more. But anything you list on this budget is governed by Edgar, governed by those allowability rules. You might also have local funds that aren't used as a match, that weren't earned as part of your program services. Those are the things we talked about this morning. You could do something different with, something that would be otherwise unallowable with AFLA funds, but your local funds are the same, have the same rules as the state and federal funds overall. There are some other categories, like you can't spend more than 5% on administration for federal funds. But that's something that bears discussing a little bit further. So on the budget, we've given you some basic categories: administration, instruction. We then also have the subtotals of things that we do a little bit differently. Project funds for some of those special project grants, the total proposed for corrections, career services, training services, and the infrastructure costs, where you're simply telling us how much you've spent for a certain category. Those aren't meant to be budget items necessarily, but we've given you sort of a starting place. These are the general line items that you would have for each one. It would bear every year when you're thinking about what's administrative cost, what's not. I would read the excerpt that we have on the budget from Edgar, what's considered an administrative cost. Actually, this isn't from, it's from the regulations, but it's linked. Planning costs, administration, including carrying out performance accountability requirements, professional development, providing adult education literacy in alignment with local workforce plans, things like that. It's not necessarily you're an administrator. All of your salary is administrative. If you do instructional things, a portion of your time might be instructional. There are also some, when we break things down into that administrative and instructional categories, there are also things that we do that's like, well, it's not really instruction, but career navigation is a perfect example of something that your career navigator is not necessarily sitting in or standing in a classroom teaching math, but that doesn't mean what they're doing is administrative. So really think about whether or not they're carrying out allowable adult ed activities, which are listed in the continuation funding application. They're listed in the policy manual, so we won't go into those there, but those allowable activities are much more broad than just standing teaching a subject. So think about that when you're thinking about your budget lines. So we have those general categories, and within that, there's a lot of nuance on what's allowable, what's not. So when you're doing your budget from year to year, again, I don't know how everyone else does it. When I was at a local program, I basically just copied and pasted the amounts from one year to the next, because we were never really doing anything substantially different, but that gave me a good starting point. If there was an increase or decrease in funding, I could adjust from there. And one of the things that helps prevent, if you're kind of looking year to year, is some of the concerns. So the huge concern when you're reworking your budget is supplanting. So I kind of put on here, once fed, always fed. So every federal rule, there's an exception to. But generally, if you are paying for something out of federal funds and you move away from that, you can't move it back. Or if you're paying for something with state funds, you can't just move it to federal. So if you are trying to move things in and out of that federal category, there's at least a cool off year where you can't pay for that. So make sure that when you're moving things from local to fed, from fed out, moving from fed out is fine as long as you're not planning to move it back the next year. Or you can't move it out of fed this year, move a salary for an instructor from federal to state, have it sit there for 3-4 years, and then move it back to federal. You have to supplement what you're currently doing. You can't supplant. In order to get that back into the federal line, you would have to completely stop doing that for an entire year before you can start paying for it out of federal funds. So always be mindful of that. Federal is a lot of times our largest allocation line. So it's easy to think, we're just going to dump everything in federal, but really be mindful of what you're paying from where. So think about supplanting. We've also had come up lately what I think in Brustein presentations, we've heard them called highly walkable items. So things that could leave very easily. And that would be computers is usually the biggest thing with that. So computers now, not under WEA, but when WEOA was authorized, computers became a supply. However, they are a more valuable item that can easily disappear. So EDGAR requires enhanced tracking on your program and your institution's part for those items. If you purchase a computer lab or a laptop cart that costs $20,000, but each computer was $500, that's a supply, except because Department of Ed treats that differently. If they walk in, or if we walk in, we should be able to ask you, okay, you bought this $20,000 computer cart. Where are they right now? Down to the serial number. So you need to be able to track that. You need to be able to speak to that. You need to know where these items are. You have to establish internal controls to account for their whereabouts and use. Under normal circumstances, you would not be able to check laptops out to students. That's something that we've become more lenient on through Octave has given us guidance during the pandemic that we're able to do. But you should be able to speak to where those are, what student has them, how are you making sure they still have it, how are you going to get it back, what are you going to do if it disappears? You need to be able to answer those questions. So just think about that as you're going through. Along that same line with anything that's considered equipment, you need to be tracking how you're disposing of things. So ideally, you would not be disposing of something until after it's served its useful life, which means it has a zero value. Your institution, for any grant, it's especially Department of Ed grants, but other departments have the same requirement. You should be able to speak to, and you should have a process for what was it? How long did you have it? Where was it? When you're done with it, why did you get rid of it? Where did it go? And you need to keep that on file like you would student records. So especially for things, because we're starting to get to a point that there were things that were purchased under WIOA timeline where the bar for equipment was much lower. It was $500. We moved to $5,000 under WIOA, but you need to be able to track that old quote unquote equipment. And then you need to be able to track things that are considered supplies, but are still a higher value, more likely to disappear.
Chris,
Yes, Debbie.
this is Debbie. Would you repeat those questions you were asking of things when tracking?
Oh my. Yes.
Thank you.
So generally,
The last 10 minutes.
and this was also recorded, so it will be available for posterity. So you need to be able to speak to, and Justine has also asked,
So,
what about graphic?
It occurred to me yesterday that I might be driving around with no insurance, right? So after lunch, I went to the insurance place and I told them that.
Jason,
Oh,
you want to put yourself on mute?
I thought that was a question. So Justine has asked about things like graphing calculators. It could still be, depending on the price of the graphing calculator, you're better off tracking those items. But computers definitely, the problem is Octave does not define exactly what it is. So it would be things that are of a higher value that can disappear. So graphing calculators are more likely to fit in that category than not. But you should be able at any given time to say what it is, where it is, after a certain amount of time, if you are getting rid of it, why are you getting rid of it? Where did it go? There are also rules for when you're disposing of equipment. You're supposed to offer it to other similar grant type programs. So Eric Tincher has raised his hand. We have 7 minutes, so let's not.
No, Chris, it'll be super quick. I think you also said, sir, that if a student has it, what is the plan to get it back from the student?
Yeah, and that would be with laptops during this time where we're allowed to check those out to students. So if you are checking them out to students, it's really the same questions, but you might want to have some more enhanced measures, some enhanced internal controls in place to track those laptops. There's a type of LoJack software that you can get for laptops that anytime it connects to the internet, it would ping what its current location is. I would definitely consider things like that, because you need to be able to speak to, yes, I gave it to a student, they have it. Well, where is it now? I don't know. Well, you need to talk about how you're tracking it while the student has it, how you check in with them to make sure they still do. If the student stops coming to class and they still have the laptop, what are you doing? Are you contacting them? Are you trying to recapture that? You just need to have processes in place, and you should be following your institutional processes and procedures for this type of loaning of technology, which your institution may already be doing. And you shouldn't necessarily be doing anything different than what your institution is doing, unless they're not being stringent enough. So is it allowable? So I know it's really hard to tell you sometimes if things are and aren't allowable. Sometimes you have asked us, can I spend money on this? Or it's much easier for you to throw something out at us and be like, can I buy food? What's the answer to can you buy food? Anyone? No, absolutely not. Unless overnight travel is involved. So like I said, every federal rule, there's an exception, but you cannot buy lunch for your staff with AFLA funds. If you have local funds that aren't used as a match that you don't report to us, you can do that. If your institution wants to buy lunch for your program, they can do that, but you cannot use grant funds, which include local match dollars, to buy food. So here's a general list of things, what's allowable, what's not. Food, alcohol, no. Graduation, so commencement and convocation, you cannot spend AFLA funds on that. That would need to be local dollars, not reported as match. And some of these say allowable, some of these say allowable with restrictions. Those restrictions you would be able to find in the Edgar regs. If you have specific questions, let us know. Materials, supplies, and computers, that's allowable. Now, what is a material or supply? It would really be something that your students are using during the course of their instruction. But along these terms of allowability, I had to just pop in a single meme. So is allowable. So if you can answer 3 questions, the kind of 3 questions, it would let you know if you can still buy it. So the 3 questions: is it necessary? Is it reasonable? And is it allocable? So necessary and reasonable. A good example of that is computers are generally allowable. So it's necessary. We can all agree that we need computers as part of instruction. We need it for testing. We need it for learning, all of that. So these are links. Oh, apparently Microsoft has identified a security concern with Cornell. So I won't go to it, but there are links to the Edgar law there that really speak to those particular sections. But is it necessary? Computers, yes, necessary. Is it reasonable? So the question there is reasonable. So is a $500 computer reasonable? Yeah. Is a $1,000 computer reasonable? Maybe. Is a $10,000 computer reasonable? No. So again, reasonable is not defined, except that it should be, you should really kind of default to what's the minimum you need to carry out the activity that you're trying to do. So if you're trying to do computer-based testing, you should use the minimum computer specs. Also, your institution probably has a policy. I know I've spoken with a couple directors where, you know, the institution has, if you're buying a laptop, this is a laptop you're buying. That's what you should be doing. If you purchase something other than that, and that were ever looked at by us or by Octane, you would need to have a reason why you deviated from that. So if your institutional laptop $750 and you spent $2,000, you should have a reason. Otherwise, it was not necessary, and therefore it wasn't allocable. So the necessary really falls into the reasonable and allocable lines, but it's good to think about these 3 questions when you're trying to figure out if something is reasonable. Janice Blancett says, if our institution is a laptop standard that costs $1,300, is that acceptable? If that's your institutional base and there's a reason why you're doing that, that would be acceptable because you're following your institution's guidelines. But I would also just keep around the explanation of why that's so. I mean, I know a $500 laptop is great, but I think we all know that it's not going to last as long as a $1,300 one, and that's probably the calculus behind that. But that's also maybe starting to get up there. But it's that question again. The reasonable isn't defined other than it needs to be exactly what you need to carry out the service. So with that, that is our time. So any questions before we move on? Well, again, we are always available to answer these questions, but we wanted to do a very quick and dirty overview of adult ed finance and allowability. We will talk more about these things in the future. With that, Connie?
Yes, so it is our pleasure to welcome Donna Lewelling, who is the Oregon State Director of Adult Education. And I will let Donna take it from here. I know she's on the line and she's going to be sharing some slides as well. Welcome, Donna.
Hi, thanks everyone. Can you see me and hear me okay? Yep, okay.
We can.
I'm gonna see how good I am at this now. Usually my friend Tammy, who's on our team, drives the bus. Can you see the screen? Do you see a PowerPoint? Yay! Well, thank you for having me. I'm the state director for adult basic education in Oregon. I also serve as our interim director for the Office of Community Colleges and Workforce Development. You might hear me use the acronym CCWD, and that's just referencing the office. And it's an office within Oregon's Higher Education Coordinating Commission, which when I'm presenting either nationally or with other states, such as this morning, I lovingly refer to it as, oh heck, because it just, I don't know, it's funny. So I'm going to share a little bit about our team with you and our approach to partnership and how it's led to some innovations and program improvement. Oh, wait, how'd that get in here? Oh, all right. Well, there it is anyway. So now I suppose that you've seen it. This is our entire community college and workforce development team at our agency's all staff. The guy in the front with the blue shirt that says new guy and he's got the badge on, that's actually Nick, our Title II compliance specialist. And he really was new. This was like day 5 for him on the job when we kind of, I don't know, we railroaded him, I'm guessing, but I remember it as volunteering. But anyway, he was new. He was like day 5 on the job and we didn't scare him off. He's still with us. The skit was actually called Alex in Wonderland. And it made a complete spoof of Alex's first day, which was portrayed by Nick. I'm actually over there in the Queen. I was the Red Queen, and I had a really great time saying off with their heads to all of the employees there. But anyway, I digress. I just thought it might be helpful for you to see the team behind this. So we're going to talk a little bit about the structure within CCWD. So the D doesn't stand for grades. It doesn't stand for Donna. It actually stands for director's team. And the reason this slide is really important is because it primarily shows by person or by teams how we overlap, and that it's purposefully designed to make sure we have a student-centered focus and collaboration amongst all of our teams. So ABS has a team or has a voice in all conversations at all levels. So our ABS team is actually more than just Title II. It's our high school equivalency team, including our GED administrator. It includes our adult high school diploma specialist, and it even includes our statewide career pathways coordinator, who by the way, isn't even on our payroll. He actually is an employee at one of the local community colleges. And it's important to just understand that the team itself is made up of natural collaborators, and we actually have members of our team that are actually from other agencies. Our CTE team, for instance, actually meets with our K-12 partnering agency weekly. We're equal partners in our Perkins grant, and we split the work, the money, and the responsibilities down the middle. Our statewide career pathways coordinator is, as I mentioned, actually housed at a local community college, but he attends both our adult basic skills and CTE weekly meetings to make sure we're making connections wherever possible for career pathways for our students. And our teams attend quarterly meetings with what we call the affinity groups, which includes various stakeholder groups, including K-12, community colleges, and even workforce. So that's the CCWD team. And now we're going to talk about our actual Title II program. So this is our Title II state team. Normally when I give these types of presentations, I would be actually joined by the members of this team, but they are actually working on preparing our Ways and Means presentations, which actually start today, this afternoon, actually. So I mentioned I serve as the state ABS director. We have Helen Dunford, who is our state leadership coordinator. She works on assessment and our professional development framework and makes sure that we're getting the PD that's necessary for our instructors, directors, and staff. I told you a little bit about Nick as our ABS education specialist. And then our Oregon GED administrator, who is Adrian Oakes. Kelly Zink is our education research team analyst, and Kelly plays a very pivotal role because she not only does our federal Title II reporting, but she also does our Carl Perkins CTE reporting. And so she really gets where there's overlap, not only in the data, but also in the types of services that are being offered through both of those Octave funded grant programs. And then Tammy Perkins is our administrative specialist, and she's really like our communications hub. She makes sure that our weekly newsletter gets out. She makes sure that our meetings are scheduled. All of our contract documentation goes through her. She just literally just keeps us moving along. We are actually, Title II is actually part of a state level partnership in Oregon called the WESIT. It's the Workforce Systems Executive Team. And it was formed in order to achieve Oregon's workforce systems goals. It's a partnership consisting of all of the WIOA program directors, so Title I, II, III, IV. In Oregon, self-sufficiency and TANF programs are required partners at the table. And then because the workforce system in Oregon has lots of players in it, we've actually have other partners like the Oregon Commission for the Blind and community housing and those types of folks. The WESIT's primary function is to support the governor's workforce cabinet and our workforce and talent development board to implement the alignment of workforce investments, education, and economic development systems. The WESIT provides joint guidance and criteria for the integration of the workforce system and commits resources for systems priorities and makes recommendations to agency leadership on policies. They've collaborated on WIOA implementation and compliance, local integrated service delivery, registered apprenticeship expansion. We also serve as a steering committee for our performance reporting and information systems management system. And we also do a lot of common messaging. We did a lot of that during COVID-19 when we were trying to communicate to our local one-stop centers or our American Job Centers, or however you all refer to them. We did united memos for all the title programs, and they were signed by all the directors of those state programs. This is just an example of something that we've worked on together, WorkSource Oregon standards. They actually outline a system-wide expectation for service delivery. Oregon is kind of an interesting state in that most of our population lives in what's called the I-5 corridor or the Willamette Valley, but we actually have a lot of rural space in Oregon, and I'll show you that here in a minute. And so through this particular conversation around standards, we all came to an agreement that the lowest availability for Title II would be access through the WorkSource Oregon centers. In places where things are closer together and it makes more sense, we actually do have Title II staff inside the comprehensive one-stops. So I want to talk a little bit about the philosophical approach to Title II program delivery in Oregon. This is pretty important because it really, I don't know, it really shows how we have to wrap around the student. It's very important now more than ever, and I'm sure you all have been experiencing this as well. I also understand that some of you are not on your local workforce development boards. I'm in the same boat. In fact, our executive director for our agency serves on our workforce and talent development board. And is representing Title II at this time. But I do want to underline the fact that you really need to be talking with your workforce partners, and that means your CTE, adult basic education, your community colleges, Title I, voc rehab, community-based organizations. It's really right now what we are finding, at least in Oregon, is it is taking a very integrated team approach to be able to access, engage, and support our students on the ground. In Oregon, one of my favorite examples is a partnership, and this is actually funny because I heard you talking about laptops earlier and keeping track of them for students. In Oregon, we actually have a great partnership between our Title I partners and a place called Free Geek. The local workforce boards have been partnering with Free Geek, which is a nonprofit that takes used computers, refurbishes them, and then provides them for free to SNAP and TANF recipients, so the self-sufficiency population. Well, through our partnership with Title I and our partnership with SNAP and TANF, we've actually been able to get some of our Title II students hooked up with a computer. And for those students who are in rural Oregon and are having broadband access issues, we've actually even been able to hook them up with mobile hotspots. And so that's just one of those examples of where everybody's coming together to support our students. In another area, we actually have a provider who is working with their local board to turn an IET into a registered pre-apprenticeship on-ramp. It all happens because they're putting the learner first. But it's not possible for our local providers to be engaged unless they have wraparound support from our state program. So this particular slide shows that we intentionally wrap around our local program with compliance and technical assistance, self-assessments and program improvement plans. I'll talk a little bit about that in a few slides. We share data and research with them. We provide professional development, and obviously we provide the policies that help them operate their programs on the ground. But we also advocate for them also with their presidents and their leadership at each of the providers. So here's a spoof on the name of the agency. Where in the heck are our providers? This is a picture of Oregon. You can see here that we have a pretty big state. We have 9 workforce boards. These different colors indicate the different workforce boards. And then the stars indicate where our providers are located. This Eastern Oregon part is primarily high desert. The population density there is very low. So you can imagine that we have to get pretty creative in terms of our Title II services when our providers clear up here in the north and this section goes clear down to the south. We actually engage with our local providers by doing monthly directors calls. We have quarterly council meetings, probably very similar to what you all have today. We do monthly data professional calls. So Kelly, our research analyst, gets on the phone with our data professionals and discusses all kinds of stuff. And I'll share some of that in a minute. And we also don't implement changes in policy in Oregon unless we have actually consulted with our local directors. Now, that doesn't mean they always get what they want, but it means that they are engaged in the conversation with us, so that they at least feel like they're it isn't being done to them, it's being done with them. And that is part of our philosophy around transparency. Here's a quote that we got from a local program director during a program improvement plan debrief call. We really do try to make sure that our local directors feel like they're part of a team at the state, and that we're actually here to support them and not to, play a good game of gotcha. So I'd like to talk a little bit about data. I know that I think I've heard that you've got quite a bit of stuff coming up in the coming year around training and accessing data and that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd share with you what we have found that seems to really resonate with a variety of stakeholders, both local directors, but maybe more importantly, faculty, administrative staff, and even our local workforce boards. So I talked a little bit about how we approach data. So part of this is we do a data snippet at our weekly team meeting. So when our ABS team comes together, Kelly pulls a data snippet, and it can come from a ton of different places. National adult ed trends. We've looked at the number of participants in each of our educational functioning levels by race and ethnicity and even age. We go over the results of our quarterly desk data audits that Kelly conducts on each of our 17 providers. We talk about local performance in test to pair percentages because those are important in reaching measurable skill gains. And we also do quite a bit of comparison between past program year performance and progress on the current year. And that's been really helpful, quite honestly, in light of COVID, because we are able to look at slice and dice our data in different ways to see what the real effects of COVID have been on our actual program performance. The partnership with our local data professionals, there's monthly meetings. We actually have a data professionals meeting work plan that we provide to them as a resource. We use those as an opportunity to provide technical assistance, professional development, and ensure our data integrity. We also do quarterly desk audits, like I mentioned, and then we actually have a data management manual that was created in partnership with our local data professionals as kind of a go-to resource. And so we always tell folks, you need to go to the manual first. And that's actually cut down on quite a bit of calls for Kelly because the answer is usually in the data management manual. We do have a strong partnership with our local directors. We do incremental year-long training, and that can be anything from our performance-based funding model to current changes like the NRS tables, those types of changes. We also do a local program data focus at meetings to provide context for learning outcomes. We take a adult learner approach, quite honestly, when we are working with our local directors because we are training and providing education to them. And then probably the thing that Kelly is the most proud of, and I actually am very proud of it for her, is how she has changed data from just being numbers. She's actually changed it to a student focus. And I want to share with you what that looks like. So this is a comparison that Kelly provides to the local programs. It's this is our actual state snapshot, but it's our program performance compared with federal targets. Then what she does is she identifies where in those places where the program is not meeting federal targets, she identifies how many students it would have taken to actually meet performance. So even though this shows, you know, -1%, she equates it into students for the local programs, and that has changed the conversation immensely. You know, when you look at something and say, oh, -3%, when your instructors are looking at it, they use a student lens. And so by telling the program, you know, if you'd only had 8 more students, you know, cross the threshold on level 6, like, you would have been in compliance. And these are just some of the comments that we have gotten from our particular stakeholders. You know, it's helping instructors see how close they are to meeting the targets. It makes the numbers real students. And this one's really great about having an epiphany and targeting resources, knowing how many students we need to meet the target. The other thing that I will say is by sharing the data this way with our local workforce partners, so our Title I partners, our local workforce development boards, and others, it really changes the conversation about, well, what could we have done to help you, you know, get those 6 or 8 students, you know, just that much farther ahead in meeting their measurable skill gains. So we've talked a little bit about data, and I feel like I'm just yammering on, but I know we only have a short amount of time, so I'm just going to keep going. We'll talk a little bit now about the cycle of program improvement in Oregon. So we start kind of in the spring with a monitoring visit that is designed by the entire state team, and it's actually conducted by Nick. They consist of 2 parts, an administrative component and a classroom visit. And then once those are completed, Nick briefs our team on trends he sees, areas where there are concerns, those types of things. And then that information goes into what we call our risk assessment. Nick uses feedback from the team and rates programs in specific areas using a rating system of low, moderate, and high risk. And that's done in multiple areas like financial program performance and even overall compliance. And during this period, Nick also takes a look at areas of non-compliance from previous years. And luckily in the past 3 years, we've only had to issue 3 corrective action plans, and all 3 were for the same year for pretty much the same thing, which was failure to provide required documentation on time. But normally what happens is we end up with a program improvement plan. And so in the area of program performance, we give them the data visualizations and all of that. And then that risk assessment leads to the development of this program improvement plan for the upcoming year. And they're developed in consultation with the entire state team. And then we set statewide actions for things such as MSG gains or measurable skill gains, professional development, and those types of things. And then the local program then complete their section and identify areas where technical assistance, professional development might be needed, or innovations that they might like to try. And just like our graphic shows, all of that feeds into our professional development framework, which is used to ensure compliance with WIOA and our state plan obligations. And then we offer professional development opportunities, which are designed and delivered based upon all of the information that's collected in the rest of the cycle. And then with the hope that the PD that's offered has helped improve overall program performance, and we monitor for that when we start the cycle all over again. So this is just a list of resources that can be found on our website. If you literally Google Oregon ABS resources, the very first thing that pops up is a link to our website, which is also listed here. And you can get a hold of our policy manual, resources we put together for COVID-19, some of the resources I mentioned for data. We have our reporting and financial documents there, information related to our professional development, our Oregon Adult College and Career Readiness Standards and trainings associated with that, and accountability and assessment. So in case you can't tell, our team does work super hard, but we play super hard also. Here's a picture of yet another skit that we did, a spin on the story, Good Night, Construction Site. You can see there's a little boy sitting in Kelly's lap. That is Kelly, our research analyst. His name is Milton, and he's our honorary CCWD intern. And behind those trucks that are lined up are members of our CCWD team. And so I'll leave you with a quote from the story about the ABS team. Down at the big education site, CCWD trucks work until it's night to build the programs, help the field, to work for top education yield. But now the sun is set, their work is done. It's time for our trucks to put down their fun and one by one go off to bed to yawn and rest their sleepy heads. Then wake up another day of rough and tough education play. Helping lay a fold and a solid foundation is Cement Mixer's main adult education vocation. Now it's weary and oh so dizzy. Wee! From learning standards that keep it busy, it cuts its engines, slows its drum, and dreams sweet dreams of WIOA fun. Shh. Good night, Cement Mixer. Buenas noches. So any questions for me about our program or resources or things that stood out to you, or did I just waste your half an hour's worth of time?
I do, Donna. My name's Kelly, and I sit kind of in the middle of Kansas. Could you speak just a little bit to how you're supporting the local programs? I liked how you were showing the reports where you can help the local directors get data on their individual performance, educational gains, things like that. Do you do that from like the previous year? And share that, or are you doing it live? I mean, live.
Yeah, we do it live. So well, we do both, quite honestly. Kelly on a quarterly basis pulls reports for all 17 of our providers. And literally we set benchmarks. There's an expectation that, in every single quarter, they have 100% compliance showing one or more barriers to employment. So she checks that live on a quarterly basis, and then she identifies trends that she's seeing, and then she discusses those with the data professionals, and then we debrief the actual directors during their directors call. So in the monthly cycle, or in the monthly cycle, the data professionals call happens prior to the director's call, which is held in the last part of the month. And so she'll usually share it with the data professionals. So the data professionals, quite honestly, can figure out what answers they need to have ready for when their director comes to them and says, what's going on with this? Does that help? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, I see some stuff in the chat. Let's see. Oh, well, you're welcome, Connie. Anything for you, my friend. Any other questions for me? I know that Connie has a copy of the presentation, so I'll put my contact information in this over here in the chat. And if you think of something at a later point in time, just feel free to reach out. And if I'm not the person, get it to you. Oh, wait, I put 3 L's. Don't use that email address. It's a bogus one. April Fool's 5 days late or whatever it is. But if I don't know, I will make sure that somebody on the team gets back to you. We really do take a holistic team approach. So I'm the first person to say I don't know squat about certain things.
And Donna, I did not send that out yet, but I will. And thank you again. Really appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I will let you all get back to your important conversations. And once again, thanks for having me. Take care.
Great. Thank you, Donna.
Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Well, she is perfectly on time. So we're right at 1:30. So we're going to take a quick break and we will see you all back here at 1:40 for Mr. Eric Tincher's presentation. Be ready. See y'all at 1:40.
Hey, Aaron, if you can hear me, go ahead and roll to the next slide. That's okay. We don't need this slide.
Okay, you got it.
We can hear you loud and clear, Mr.
Just a placeholder.
Excellent. You got it.
Thank you.
Now we can enjoy these beautiful homes instead,
Yeah.
and we can dream.
Well, I don't know if Karen's going to sell them.
I'm not sure. 1:30?
Okay, well, I show 140. Is that what you show there? Time, please.
I do. So if everybody else can go ahead and mute their lines if you're coming back, we'll let Eric get started.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Eric Tincher. I'm the Associate Director for Adult Education for the state of Kansas. And I recently deployed to Saudi Arabia. I'm in the 190th Air Refueling Wing, so I'm a part of the Air National Guard. Came back at the start of February, and like everyone, suffered through the Arctic vortex that ripped across our state, but that was quite the temperature drop. In preparation for this presentation today, I wanted to think about homes, and I'm in the process of building a home myself, which I've never done. It's very exciting and very challenging at the same time. And so I thought, well, you know what? I need an example of great homes. I know that Karen Ulansky has 4 homes across the country and across the world. I figured that I'll just go take pictures of Karen's Malibu home that was used for Iron Man 3. That's the one in the upper left-hand corner. And the other homes Karen has scattered throughout North America and South America. So thanks again, Karen. I appreciate.
You know, Eric, I just aim to please. Thank you so much.
I knew you do. But okay, so all those homes there you can see are different. They're all beautiful.
Yeah, adult ed paid so well.
Yeah. Well,
Just adult ed these days, girls and guys.
But any good home, and Aaron, if you could please go to the next slide. Any good home, like any good adult education program, has to have a good foundation. And that's certainly what I have learned here in building my own house, is that it may not be pretty, it may not get the headlines, it may not get all the hoopla, but without a good foundation, we struggle and our students struggle. And so if you go ahead and do the next slide, please, Aaron. Little quiz here. What is the foundation for all adult education programs in Kansas? Anybody want to jump in and answer? What's the foundation of your program?
Pam.
Yes, the PAM. So everyone
I said
has
AM.
one of those. I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. Everyone who has a PAM, great. Make sure that you every now and then pull that out. That's something that I'm going to be charged to do here, is look at that again and say, ooh, when's the last time we've updated the PAM, and is it, consistent and current with what's happening in the state? I'm gonna need your help with that, but we need to make sure that everybody has the PAM. Aaron, next slide, please. So this is a slide, it's been edited a little bit from our 2018 meeting. And so I thought I would just bring that back to the forefront, especially for our new program directors. And it's also a good reminder for those of us who've been around for a little bit. PAM is a fundamental framework for all adult education programs. We get it. We understand at the Board of Regents that what's taking place at Kansas City, Kansas Community College may not be lockstep, the exact same thing taking place at Dodge City. But PAM is written in a way to give us overarching viewpoint for adult education. So the basic themes and Pam should be the same, whether we're at KCK or we're at Hutch or we're at Colby or we're down in Wichita. The basic theme should be the same. So we know that programs are different and they have their own little tweaks and turns and uniqueness, but still Pam is our overarching framework for all adult education. So then things that I have to do as far as professional development, as well as just my position, is make sure we ask some of these questions. And so these are questions that you find within PAM, pages 4, 5, 7. I'm not going to read those all off to you, but those are things that you should be making sure as program directors that your staff is doing. When you're the program director, it's like being Captain Kirk in charge of the enterprise. You are in charge of your crew. So make sure that your people are doing these things. And then there's a quiz that I created years ago when I first came into adult ed. We need to make sure that everyone has that quiz. That file can be electronic or hard copy. Guess who that's up to? It's up to you as a program director, where you keep that. But when we roll in every now and then, or just ask the question, you should be able to say, yep, everyone has looked at the PAM. We talk about it during staff meetings, whether that's monthly or every 4 months or whatever, but every now and then we're talking about the PAM and everyone's taking the quiz. And we have that on file somewhere. Keyword documentation, because we have to answer to the federal government and we need to make sure that you can help us answer to them. So the PAM. All right, Aaron, we're ready for the next slide, please. And this is not going to be some 2-hour presentation, by the way. We're gonna get through this. And I'm not going to have any cool little rhyming thing at the end. I didn't think of that. So another part of our framework, part of our foundation, basis, the overall theme for this presentation that I'm doing is how are we going to build our house? We have to have CCRS. Those of us who have been around for a while, remember how we used to do face-to-face CCRS trainings. Now we can do all of our training online. Didn't make sense to us back in 2018. And I'm just going to use Johnson County as an example. I'm talking with Janice. Janice is like, Eric, CCRS sounds great. We believe, we support. There's no way we can send our part-time staff to 2 days training wherever set up, even in Lawrence, even in Johnson County. It's just, we can't have our faculty be gone like that. And so we heard you, and we worked with T3 out of Wichita State, and we created this online platform that's rolling. People are doing great. Connie mentioned at the start that while I was gone, Sue was, helping to take care of that. Thank you, Sue. I appreciate you picking up the ball during my absence. Now she's giving that ball back to me. CCRS is my baby. That's one of the things I'm very heavily invested in. And so we need, again, if you're a new program director and you're like, what's he talking about? CCRS, you need to get with your mentor or get with me. Get with me. I'd be happy to walk you through CCRS. So we need everyone. Yes, program directors, wink, wink, that's you. Everyone needs to at least do the overview. And then we, of course, as faculty members, you dictate whether they do English language arts or they do mathematics, or they can do both. They can do both. So Aaron, if you go to the next slide, please. Here's an example. Cloud County Community College, Debbie Kern, her team, everyone has an account. Let's start with that. Everybody has an account. So if you have new staff members who don't have an account, and I send these out monthly. So if you haven't got one in a while, or if you're curious, hey, I just hired Erin, does she have an account? Get with me and we'll figure that out. If not, we'll create an account. That way Erin can get started. And then you can see on Debbie's team here, everyone's done the overview. Awesome, way to go. And then the orange means we did face-to-face. Back in the day, we used to do face-to-face CCRS training. So we'll just use Debbie. Debbie did ELA 1 face-to-face. For whatever reason, she didn't do ELA 2 and 3. I don't know why Debbie didn't do, who knows? Something happened, life, being a program director. But Debbie then circled back and did it online. Perfect, that's the way to go. We've got, you drop down to Mandy Cloth. Mandy did math face-to-face, came back and did ELA probably with Debbie face-to-face, and then came back and picked up ELA 2 and 3 online. This is a perfect example of how it can be done. So I know that we have various size programs as far as staff. And so different people will look different, but this would be the example of what we as a state are wanting everyone to get to. And so it can be a combination. Well, no more face-to-face, it's all online now, but we need everybody to have either ELA completed or math completed or both. Does that have any questions before we roll on to further slides? Anybody have any questions about CCRS or PAM or anything I've said so far? Cool. Okay, next slide, please. So now our foundation, PAM, CCRS, golden. Talk about our walls. What are the walls of the program? Well, one of the things we started to do last year before I got pulled in to work for the state as far as the military side and dealing with COVID, and then certainly once COVID happened, it was mental health first aid. And so I know that we did one in Northeast, and we had people from Johnson County. Of course, Lawrence hosted. Thanks again for Lawrence. And KCK, I think, came down. So that was a good mental health first aid. It was a one-day training people were able to get to. We also did one out west in Liberal. We had Dodge City folks. We had Garden City folks. And of course, Liberal as a host, be a part of that mental health first aid training. And that's something that we're going to have to pick back up. Something I want to get going again to help build the walls of our program.
Eric, we did that too in Parsons. But
oh, that's right.
Just our
that's
people,
right.
But they would do it for anybody.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks. That's right. Thanks, Krista. So something that we want to renew, and we have new staff. You know, we always are constantly changing our staff. And so this is part of the walls of our program to help us as faculty members and administrators best support our students. And so that's something that's going to be coming back up this fall. Does anybody, again, Chris, I know you just jumped in. Does anybody else want to jump in on that? Janice or Hector or Faye or Bill or anybody about what that training was like?
My staff actually said it was one of the better trainings that we've done. Just because it dealt with, and I felt like it just sort of scratched the surface of the issues, the underlying issues that we deal with in adult education every day. Not just adult education, but even, you know, in the post-secondary world as well. So it's a pretty good training.
Good.
It's fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, I sat through it myself, and I mean, like any training, you're going to get out of it kind of what you put into it. So if I was engaged, and I thought the teacher was engaging as far as information. So I think it's a good program, and I look forward again. The goal for professional development is we want to help individual programs what you need. And so we'll talk more about that later on, but
and Eric, I'm pretty sure they didn't charge us a per person rate. They just had us make a donation. So that was good too, that it wasn't, you know, a set fee. So,
right.
Sorry.
So Eric, may I just add that I have taken it through Johnson County, and several other team members at Johnson County Adult Education have also taken it. We're also considering it for all of our receptionists, all of our front desk office people who interact with the public. I thought it was excellent. It's pretty powerful. It kind of drains you by the end of the session, but I think it gives you some really good tools, really practical information about how to address individuals who may be under a lot of stress. And
right.
Certainly that applies to a lot of our students.
Highland Community College. Highland Community College is dedicated to it as well, and provides a couple of times a year training for any staff that want to participate. So it's an excellent training. I've been through it, and several of my staff have been through it. And so we'll take advantage of it when it comes up again.
We're gonna do it again. Thank you for that, everyone. I appreciate your comments, and like what Connie just said, thank you for your input. So to continue with our wall theme and how we can have strong walls to help support our home, our house, something new that we're going to bring to the table starting in August is Dr. Lynn Bogner. And Dr. Bogner has created these different modules. We're going to be working with our T3, the same company that does our CCRS. So it's going to be an online format. So that is going to, the face-to-face professional development days could very well be in the past. This online format is going to be the way that we're going to go again, so that we can get all faculty and hit as many people as we possibly can. We don't want time to be a factor, and we don't want distance to be a factor. We want people to be able to do this. And so we're very excited about Dr. Bogner. I've gone through it myself. I'm not a professional faculty member, and again, was able to get some really good takeaways about adult education and what it's like to be in adult education and be a person in charge, standing in front of a classroom trying to teach adult ed. We know that we can get faculty members who've got 5, 20, 30, 50 years teaching experience and come in and be a faculty member for us. But that might be K-12, or that might be at the college level, university level, and that's not necessarily adult education. And we are our own, in a way, unique train of thought. And so we need to make sure that people have that same basis so we can have a good, strong program. So there'll be more information coming out about Dr. Bogner here in the future. Next slide, please. Continuing with the walls, page 2 of 2. So student achievement in reading, our STAR program. And now we've had many programs go through STAR. We've had many faculty members go through STAR. We just had a big cohort go through the last year and a half. And thank you for everyone who did that. Obviously, COVID was unique. And so to go through those 30 modules, STAR has also moved to an online format. We used to do much more face-to-face. Again, those are days of old. But developed by OCTAE is to help evidence-based reading instruction. So for those programs who've gone through STAR, we know, and you have to step back and think about how are we doing things different than we've done them before. So if you're a new program director, or even if you're a seasoned program director, and you're thinking, how are we helping our intermediate level students? STAR is a strong, nationwide supported program that we greatly endorse.
Hey, Eric.
Yep.
It's also part of the federal legislation that I think we often forget, that we are mandated to provide reading instruction in some form.
Thank you, Kelly. That is absolutely true. It's part of the law. So we have to be able to do something that meets that and checks that box. I appreciate you jumping in and saying that. So right now, that last bullet is that our board staff, we are working with a national STAR trainer on our next steps. We're looking at 2 local adult educators. We need to reach out, of course, to the program directors first, talk about time and what that might entail, as well as myself going through training. But we're also looking to identify our next cohort of programs. So more on the horizon, more in the future about STAR. But if you have not done it, or if you haven't done it in a while, or if you've got new faculty, again, through this, the whole presentation, any questions, reach out to me. Happy to work with you and happy to help. And like Kelly said, it's the law. So now let's move to the roof. What's the roof of our program? This is something that we are really excited about. A resource database. This is new. So it's going to be available through the GoLearn, just like CCRS. So available through our T3, through our partners there. It's an online platform in which a resource repository will be submitted and shared throughout the state. You have asked for this for years. For years. We talked about this back and forth. How could it ever get done? We didn't know. We couldn't figure it out. But now T3, that company, they have the bells and whistles. And so we've asked Selina and Kelly there. They're going to be a test program for us for the month of April, for most of the month of April. And what we're going to do is we're in a beta phase. And so they're going to, as faculty members, they're going to be able to submit, whether it's quizzes or it's lesson plans or it's PowerPoints, a variety of things. And so then we're going to play with it and see if it works and what glitches there are, figure those out. And then we're going to roll this out to you, the state, come August. So when we have our summer meeting, we're going to have all those, hopefully, cross fingers, all those glitches taken care of. So if you go to the next slide, please, Aaron. Again, it'll look, for everybody who's familiar, and I know you are, with CCRS, it's going to be, you're going to have your My Learning, you're going to have a training, and then you're going to have this resources tab. That's new. And so you'll be able to add a resource. whether you're an administrator or whether you're a faculty member. Please understand that it's like a public domain owned then by the Kansas Board of Regents. So if somebody has a really cool lesson plan in mathematics, Mandy Cox, and she puts that up, great, thank you for doing that. Let's help then a new faculty member or even a seasoned faculty member out at Hutch who wants to learn more about mathematics and how do you teach math, then that becomes a public domain owned by us as a resource available to everyone across the state. So Aaron, you can go ahead and do the next slide, please. Again, what they're going to do, they're going to put in the title. So Algebra 101, and there's a little bit of description and the subject matter. If there's a video, if there's like a YouTube link, we can do a variety of things with this. We are super, I mean, super excited at the state to be able to have this resource repository for everyone. And then the last slide, please, Aaron. And then again, those are the categories. Kelly and I have already been talking. Hey, those are great that you have these categories for faculty. It'd be nice to add an administrative type category as well to share. So simple things like that we can obviously do. And T3 is great to work with. So we're excited to be able to work with them and to make this happen. So I'm going to pause for a second and just open it up. We've got a couple minutes here. Are there any questions about this resource repository or any comments? Okay, no problem. Next slide, please. So here's something that's coming up. If you don't have it on your calendar or if you didn't get a links email, it's the, well, first off, it's free. Big blue letters. Free 2-day professional development opportunity. Teach the skills that matter for adult learners. So June 15th and 16th, please put this on your calendar. And if you need this, if you didn't get the email, let me know. I'd be happy to get it to you. But this is something that's coming up. Again, as the professional development person for the state, one of the things I'm supposed to do is just keep reminding us of the different opportunities. So even in the summertime, I know some of you may not have faculty then, some of you do, but June 15th and 16th is a virtual conference called Teach the Skills That Matter. So next slide, please. So now let's move on to the roof of our program. And the roof of our program is, of course, conferences. So please email us a link again. Okay, Karen, I'm on it. I got it. Thank you for that. So KAEA, we asked for feedback about the KAEA conference. Janice's picture happens to be at the top of my screen, so she's the one I see. Johnson County and Leslie just sent me a summary. They couldn't pick just one. They wanted to talk about a variety of different sessions that they went to that they thought were really good. Thank you for that, Johnson County. Appreciate that kind of feedback. That helps me / us know what's important to you out there in the field. So if you're a new program director and you're like, what, excuse me, what is this KAEA he's talking about? Talk to your mentor or talk to me, but we would love to have you be a part of that for next year. KAEA is our national conference. It is the adult education conference across the country. And so it's important that we budget our time and effort to make sure we go to that, because there's a lot of really good sessions. Give me a second here. Good grief. Got all choked up. Another conference obviously is KAEA. That's the one for tomorrow and Friday morning. That's our state adult education conference. So again, it's important that we support that. And we're online. So hopefully, obviously distance is not an issue. So go to the KAEA. Links, we get links, emails all the time. Hopefully you get those as well. Are those hopeful to me if I send those out to you? But Links is an excellent organization that help provide professional development in a variety of different subjects, helps to strengthen the roof of your program. There's NRS training that everyone is supposed to do. Don't forget about that. We've talked before about Aztec. We've talked before, oh, Hector says KAEA is going to be in Seattle, Washington in 2022. So if you've never been to Seattle, it's a beautiful city, a lot of neat things to do. There's the wharf, there's, I mean, of course, the conference itself, and there's a lot of other neat things to see. So Aztec, Burlington English, and there's other, of course, different professional developments. Going back to one of the things I said at the start, Colby, for example, may have a prison track that they need more professional development in. Let's focus on that. If that's good for Colby, it may not be good for Cali. Okay, or maybe good for Cali. It may not be good for Flint Hills Tech. That's fine. We can strengthen and streamline different professional development for individual programs. My job is to help support you and your staff. So whatever we need, that's what we need to work on together. Next slide, please. So I got this from the Glossary of Educational Reform. Is what is professional development? And I am going to read this one. Professional development education. The term professional development may be used in reference to a wide variety of specialized training, formal education, or advanced professional learning, intended to help administrators, teachers, and educators improve their professional knowledge, competence, skill, and effectiveness. That's what we're trying to do. And to do that, I need your help. So again, I continue to work with you and the other staff. We continue to work together. And so look forward to this next year and of course being back. Next slide, please, Aaron. So some of those SurveyMonkey results, they came back at the end of December when I was gone. We can go do the next slide, please, Aaron. These are some of the things that you talked about that you said you need. You need online training options for faculty, lesson plans, curriculum. That's going to be that resource repository. So we're trying to check that box. We need online ESL instruction or best practices. We need your help with that. We know that there's good ESL training taking place in the state already. So again, use that resource repository to share what are best practices so we can help each other across the state. Distance learning / education best practices, same thing. You've asked for lessons on Zoom or Teams, how best to use that. Again, this list here may not all be professional development, but we want to make sure, we want you to know that we do hear you and we do read through your comments. So you've asked for more help with Aztec, more help with Burlington English. There's talk about a statewide enrollment form. I kind of wanted to follow up on that and just kind of get a touch base. That's what we're thinking, a statewide enrollment form for all programs. That's something we can talk about. And also there was talk about in the SurveyMonkey about money to help students with laptops and or the internet. You saw Chris's presentation a little bit ago about things that are allowable or unallowable. So that's something that we can continue to talk about as well. So we don't want to SurveyMonkey you out. We don't want to do it all the time. But when we do send out one, we take those seriously. And so hopefully you do as well. And you find it to be a good resource to get back with us and tell us what you're looking for. Next slide, please. Oh, Kelly's got a question.
Hey, well, I don't have a question, but I want to tell you something I just learned, Eric. We learned through COVID as we've been ramping up remote learning. There is a site called CK12, and I don't know if any of you have heard of it.
No.
It's free lesson plans and what they call flex books, and they're online textbooks that you can build your lessons in with what's in there. They are adding an adult education section to their site. And my teachers are going into the trainings this next week on it, but it has been really pretty pivotal for us in the area of math and science particularly. So if you want to add that as a resource, it's free. It was developed by K-12 teachers around, and it's CK12, the letter CK-12, CK12. It's huge, it's big, and I think it's something that could support all adult ed programs, and especially preparing for GED. But it's becoming a bigger and bigger part of our both online and on-site option.
Okay, so there it is. Thank you, Bill. So Aaron, just take a
we were real excited because they literally just put adult education into their offerings.
Okay. Well, I mean, and this is exactly the kind of collaboration that we want to see and are excited to see. And we believe happens across the state anyway. So Bill just put the link up. Thank you again for doing that, Bill. So CK12, and we probably need all program directors to kind of write that down real quick, because if it's a chance to help even one faculty member and help students, that's what we're all in this for to do together, is to help students. So That great, Kelly. Appreciate you jumping in with that information, and everybody hopefully has got that link. Okay. Yep, not everybody is loving Aztec, but Sherry, it looks like it's working for Butler down there, so good. And a lot of people love Aztec, so we understand that it's different things for every program. One of the things that Chris has really challenged me on as far as a mindset is not to think of PD as just money that we're just going to continue just to throw out, but really to look at it as what does every individual program need. So kind of what I alluded to earlier, we may be the same and we need that foundation to be the same. That's our PAM, that's CCRS, but we may have individual program needs. And I am charged and excited to be back and working to help you with your program and whatever it is that you need because of our own uniqueness. Oh, yep. So that's my question. What do you need? So we can meet federal, state requirements, we can motivate faculty, bottom line, enhance student learning. And of course, we cannot end without saying help students find employment. We've been kind of hitting that now for a number of years that adult ed has more from what it used to be to what it currently is and what we think it's going to be in the future. And it has to have that employment piece. That folks is not going away. That's not going away. And so we need to be able to help our students be successful in that sense. Does anybody, I think that's my last slide. Aaron, do I have anything next? Nope, that's it. So go back if you want to. Does anybody have any questions for me? I am 5 minutes early. All right, well then I'm going to get out of the way and give it over to my neighbor and good friend, Sue. Thank you, everyone.
Good afternoon. I'm glad to see all of you. It has been a long time. I woke up this morning and I was reading my horoscope, and today it said, you will be surrounded with knowledge and dedication in today's journey. Look where I am and look who all is in front of me. So it was so right. Well, welcome to our conference. And I'm going to talk a little bit and very quickly about what's up with GED, but then I'm going to move on to our new diploma program and talk a little more in depth about that. So you guys have a little bit better base on what that is. Next. Just please, please, please double check for an account before forwarding the compulsory paperwork. I have about 50 compulsory paperwork students right now that have no accounts, and I have to check those every single time a new student comes in because I do have the paperwork. So it is quite time consuming, and those have really been coming in more and more. So do please check for an account before forwarding the paperwork to me. Allow at least a 24-hour turnaround for the compulsory approval. I have been receiving on a daily basis quite a few requests for immediate turnaround. I really, that has just escalated because students are wanting to do the online proctored tests and everything, and they can do it immediate. Unfortunately, there are times I'm in the midst and throes of other projects. As you know, I try to always turn these around very, very quickly. And I do in a lot of cases turn them around immediately. But if there are any issues or a student has 2 accounts or names are not matching, which it has become a larger entity. I am getting compulsory forms of totally different names than what the student has registered for in GED. We cannot go by what a student just wants their name to be. It needs to match their ID. It needs to be their legal name. If they have gone through the court system and changed that legal name, that's a whole different thing. And we can go in and make those changes to the legal name. I have had 5 in the last month that the names do not even match. They have a different name on GED. And then I'm telling you guys they don't have an account. You're telling me, well, they did open an account. And then we find the name isn't even similar. So do be checking those. And again, we have to have those names matched. Huge reminders. We have gotten a little lax on this, and I keep trying to send out the emails to remind you guys, do not send emails with personal information in them, such as birth dates, social security numbers, etc., unless they are through that encrypted email or fax, especially with all of the issues today with information being stolen and those kinds of things, identity theft. We really, really want to be conscious of this. So please be, astute that we've got to make sure that we're not just sending that information across. Next. I would like you to mark the dates down. I will be on vacation May 3rd through 7th. We will have somebody that will be able to do some of the things that I do, but I will be gone that whole week. If you have compulsory forms that you're sitting on and you think a student might be ready by then, get those to me early. We can get them approved and get them done. That's certainly not any problem. GED Ready. If you are having issues ordering from your page, that new GED Ready ordering process, please make me aware so we can get that fixed. We have seen some glitches that for some reason, some of you, it's not connecting to your account. And so I submit those to GED, and they've been getting those fixed pretty quickly now that we have noted what the problem is. So if you're not able to do that from your GED manager, absolutely get with me and we'll get that fixed so you can use that resource, because it's wonderful. It just makes ordering those so much easier. I wish they had that for the actual GED test, but they're not quite there yet. Any questions? It's really all about, I wanted to go over before I hit the others. Any questions on anything? Comments? Okay. All right. We'll go to the next part then. This is something that is brand new. We have been very fortunate to come into a little funding that can be utilized for a GED Adult Basic Ed statewide campaign. We are looking for creativity. Do you have, which I know you do, you have great ideas. We want to hear from you. A couple of you have already presented some information to me and some ideas which are fabulous. You can email your slogans, short blurbs that could be used in a statewide advertising campaign. We need short and catchy. There could be a cash incentive for your center, and we are still in the very early stages of all of this. One of the things that we're really looking at right now are bus wraps in our bigger cities, and have been able, due to it being a public service announcement, being able to really tap into that at a much less cost than the average person would. So that's one of the things we're looking at. And then some other means, I've been talking to some radio stations about public service announcements and those types of things. So if you have ideas, especially for those of you that are out west, if you have things that you've wanted to do that maybe you haven't been able to do, at least present those to me. We would like to get as much of the state as we possibly can and get the word out about GED and Adult Basic Ed. So get those ideas and information to me. How could we market? Where do we market? What markets do we want to look at? All of that information, and I will be collecting that here in the next week, and then we'll really be getting down to the bones of what we're going to be doing and what that campaign looks like. Are there any questions on that? My gosh, you guys are never this quiet. Okay, next. All right, we're going to talk today about the Kansas Pathway to Career Diploma. And this, as of today, we have 13 individuals that have completed this diploma. So when we originally thought about it, we figured our first year we'd be looking at maybe around 25. And we are a little bit ahead of what we thought and where we thought we would be. And it's going to be interesting to see what culminates from that. Next. what this is this is just the program explanation. It's designed for the adult. And it is not for, we did not want to compete with high schools. We did not want to compete in the 16, 17, 18-year-old range. But it allows a student to get their high school completion as well as a college certificate. And then once they get they get all the high school done, they get all the college done, that's when they're going to get the diploma. Next. Eligibility. It is 21 or older. And I had somebody say, well, can you bend that? No, this has been state legislation. We cannot change the age. It is 21 or older. They cannot have been awarded a high school diploma nor currently enrolled in a high school program. They have to have been accepted into the Kansas Adult Education Program and demonstrated high school equivalency by meeting the criteria established by the State Board of Regents, and then declared an AOK career pathway interest in addition to. So they've got to have all of that together. Next. High school equivalency requirements. Provide proof of completion of an approved AOK pathway at a Kansas community or technical college. Where applicable, provide proof of the industry recognized credential as appropriate to the AOK pathway. Kind of blooped that, sorry. And then earned an ACT nationally recognized career readiness credential at the silver, gold, or platinum level. Next. Now, this is where they only have to do one of these. I recently received one and they had completed two. You will determine, or the student determines, which one of these they're going to complete. So are they going to use a GED math test score? Now that has to be from the 2014 series or above. So if they took it in 2015, they can utilize that GED math score. Anything prior to the 2014 will not be accepted. So if somebody has a 2010 score, it doesn't count. Scoring of an 18 or above on the ACT math test. We've got the TABE 1112 of a 596. Scoring a 250 on the AccuPlacer. So sorry about that. Scoring a 5 or above on the work keys, passing college algebra with a grade of a C or better, or passing contemporary and essential math with a C or better. You only, again, have to do one of those. And so that will take care of that math requirement. Next. Language arts, again, just one of the following, and it can be the GED test, the ACT reading, TABE 1112, AccuPlacer, ACT work keys again, or English Comp 101. Most of them that I'm seeing right now are that GED, the GED language arts and the GED math. Saw a couple of TABEs in that group, but it can be any of those, just to make that very clear. Next.
Sue, can I ask a question? This is Krista.
Yes, Krista.
Heather and I were just discussing, when would this be an instance? When would this be your choice versus just taking the GED and going through, getting the regular PAL and doing it that way? Because it seems to me like it's virtually the same. I mean, we have options.
More labor intensive.
This seems more labor intensive, yeah.
Well, but if you have a student that's entering your program is going to take the TABE anyway. If you have a student that wants to get that certificate and get the high school diploma together, and they don't want to take the whole GED, they can already have some of those tests done, but they want that training.
But is the college fronting the tuition and the training again? Is that what's happening here?
I'm sorry, what?
Heather, is the college fronting the tuition and the pathway?
I'm only
Yes.
getting part.
Yes.
I'm
Well,
sorry.
it's using the AOK model. So the college isn't fronting anything. The college is waiving the tuition
Okay,
and is reimbursed at a much higher rate.
so it's the tiered funding thing again? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. It's been,
Alright.
I've slept a few times since we've talked about this, so thank you.
Thanks, Chris. I was getting part of our conversation and not all of it, so I apologize. And then the other component is that civics requirement of a 70% or above on the civics test. I need to make it very clear. You were provided the final civics test. That student is not to see that civics test prior to them taking that test. That is not meant to be a study guide. It's not meant to be a practice test, and then they take it. When we were working with our legislators, this was huge. And it needs to be made very clear that you are the only ones to see that civics test until that student is ready to take that test. Now, you have been given a study guide, and the student is that study guide was made for the student to study for that test, but they are not to be given the civics test until they are ready. So I wanted to make that very, very clear. We just can't be doing that. They're earning a high school diploma, and the civics is a part of that, and we need to take that very seriously. Next. We really hadn't talked about the processes, and I just kind of wanted to cover this a little bit. And this has been a learning tool for us as well, because you don't know everything that's going to kind of come up when you're doing it. So once the student has completed all requirements and passed, you will upload the completed checklist to ACES. You must maintain, though, all of the supporting documents for the future audits. So you're not going to provide us every single document that you had on that student, but you are going to need to keep that in a file on that student. So the possibility of any future audits, when we come in, that you can supply all of those documents to substantiate that diploma. So it is very, very important. The other thing is you will be getting a new updated checklist. We've kind of improved it a little bit. I've seen some deficiencies on the other ones. I didn't want to send it out ahead to kind of complicate the matter, but you will be getting that either today or tomorrow. And I ask that you get rid of the other checklists and make sure you use this one. And it does have an updated date on it, so you will be able to see which one is the latest. Make sure that you have included a good mailing address and email address on the checklist. And we've really looked at incarcerated individuals because there seem to be quite a few coming through. We will utilize the KAEA mailing address for the hard copy documents. They will be mailed to our office. It's easier for Parchment just to send them in that bulk because we are going to have more. So they can just send them all to me. And this is just for incarcerated. However, please include a working email from your center so you can access and download the diploma and transcripts that will be sent electronically. Again, that's just for incarcerated. So if you have an incarcerated student that has completed this diploma, then we'll be using the KAEA address, but we want your email so you can download those electronic copies for those students. For students that are just on the outside and regular population, they're going to use obviously their address and their email, and that'll go straight to them. Once the information has been processed and approved by our office, you will receive an invoice for the processing fees. If the individual is paying for their own processing, you need to have the money order made out to Kansas Board of Regents. You'll have it mailed to our office, and the fee is $25 per student. That is not due until you are ready to have them credentialed. So once you've sent in all of the paperwork to have them credentialed, that's when that 25 comes in. Now, if we are to bill you or the school, then we will invoice you and you'll make sure that gets completed. And that's just that $25 covers the processing fee, their free documents, all of that type of thing. We have also worked it out with Parchment currently to provide them free documents, like if they would need it to go to a college or somebody else on the outside. Currently, those will be free. Now, if we have a student that wants 10 copies, then we're going to have to reevaluate that, to be very honest. But the copy of one here and one there, that we just wanted to do it free as long as we can. And that was something that they were willing to work with us on, especially for this first year. We'll have to kind of reevaluate that later, but that way they don't have to pay for those. Students that have earned a Kansas Pathway to Career Diploma will not go through the same ordering process as what they do for GED. That is GED. So what they will do is you will contact me or have them contact me, and I will get it ordered for them currently. It does have to go through our office to get that free copy. So as long as we can do that, I'm more than happy to order it for them, and they can give me all the information and we'll get that sent out. Next. Okay. Again, on the ordering and inquiring about ordering, just call me and we'll be more than happy to do it. Do not tell them to email me. The process is much simpler if they call, because I do need a lot of information. And again, students tend to just put any information on those emails, and we're really trying to be aware of that. And again, there is no charge for duplicate records within reason at this point in time. Are there any questions?
Yeah. So I guess I'm still a little unclear what's the advantage of doing this versus just the normal GED student who's also doing AOK. How do these differ? What am I missing?
You may have a student that doesn't want to take the science, or they're stumped up on science. You may have a student that says, hey, I'd rather take a civics test than doing the social studies of GED. You have a student that has math done, but they really haven't worked toward getting language arts and the other one's done. I think it's a personal choice of what people want to do. And I think sometimes there's kind of multiple ways of learning with this process versus just sitting down at GED 4 different times in 4 different subject areas. Plus they're getting that training. So I think it's really an individual choice of what people want to do.
Okay, that makes a little more sense there. So correct me if I'm wrong then. I guess another potential advantage of this would be that, sometimes you have those AOK students who go ahead and either hold off on taking that last exam or take it and then they're done, and then their AOK availability runs out. With this model, we kind of sidestep that then, right?
Well, you're doing it at the same time. Now, there could be, though, Bill, a possibility that a student gets all of the GED or the testing or the other stuff done before, they're done with AOK. I haven't seen that yet. It seems to be they're working on it at the same time and they kind of finish at the same time. But that could be a possibility. They may leave the civics test till last. I mean, they could do whatever they wanted to do. There could still be a chance of that depending on how they work through it. I mean, to be very honest, but it seems that they're kind of doing it across the board right now, all at about the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi there, this is Yamil Zada with WSU Tech and Next Step Alliance. Just wanted to give y'all another example or another situation that students may pursue Kansas Pathway to Career. Sue is 100% correct when she said that it just depends on a situation or on personal interest of how to navigate through this. But to give you an example, we had a student, a full-time mother, multiple kids, and she just genuinely doesn't have time to pursue GED classes while also taking and participating in AO classes. And so when it comes to navigating through working full-time and then being in classes for 12 hours a week, there just isn't any sort of wiggle room to be able to attend post-secondary education. So this is the route that we're going to be transitioning to, just because it works better for her schedule. And as far as testing, and as far as the civics portion, as far as those 2 GED tests, those are other variables that come in play as well. But for this particular situation for the student, it's that time, and it's that time and attendance that is kind of impacting that student's decision to move forward with this. So I just wanted to provide that little snippet of situations that may happen. And somebody asked a question is, what's this sounds like it may be a little more tedious or more difficult. It's just an alternate route, and for this student, this is the only route that may work for her.
Thank you, Ymir. That's a very, very good example. Very good example. Thank you. Okay. Next. This is just a list of the participating programs currently that we have, and you pretty much know who you are, so we don't need to read that list, but I did want to provide that. Next. Okay, and I am ahead of schedule, but are there any questions on either the GED or the Kansas Pathway Diploma, anything that you need repeated, anything that you have questions on?
So I have a quick question. Can you go back one slide? It says Salina Area Tech College. Should it be Adult Education Center?
That's what is on the list.
So you can get this alternative diploma through the tech college?
No, this is the participating AOK.
Never mind.
That's okay. And I apologize. It does say participating programs, Kelly.
That's okay. I think it's a little confusing since
my mistake. And thank you for bringing that up. I do appreciate that. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, and you said, so this works similar to the AOK model though, where the college will waive the fees and then the tiered reimbursement and all that. So at no cost to the student?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's still in that AOK model, Bill. So
yeah.
And that was really one of the big pushes for this, is the more programs that we have that they're getting the training and they're getting the education, the more positive. So that was a big part of getting another diploma. When we first started looking at this, Kansas was one of the very few states that did not have more than one option. And so I think that's been a concern for a while. Most states have 2 and 3 different options of obtaining that high school diploma, and we had the one, and that was the GED. So it's been very enlightening to have yet another program that we can offer the citizens of Kansas.
And I just want to jump in real quick. To avoid a similar situation that we've had in other places, there is no difference between this and AOK, like Sue was saying. This is simply a high school completion option that uses the AOK pathway. So anyone who's enrolled in an AOK pathway can go on to complete those extra steps to demonstrate high school equivalency. It's just, and we've had questions too about why would you do this instead of that? What's the same reason you would choose to do anything over something else? It's all about giving individuals options, but there is no difference between the AOK portion of this and AOK that we talked about this morning. This is simply using an AOK pathway as one method of demonstrating high school equivalency, and then adding those other requirements you talked about on top of that, and then you're issued a diploma. So I just want to make sure we don't think about this program as something separate. It is AOK at its core, with demonstrating high school equivalency with some of the test requirements.
Eric? Eric?
Yep, I just saw that Melissa had a really good question. I personally don't know the answer, but I know somebody who does.
So currently, and I know this has been a question that Barton has had as well. Currently, we are going to go in. So KBOR state staff, once Sue issues the transcript, will go in and indicate the completion, since there's no data match like GED. That's all done automatically. But in ACES, we'll go in and check mark that. We are simply making sure that the backend data is correct before we start checking a bunch of boxes, and then might have to redo it. But those will start to appear once you have the completion. We'll start to have those in the system here probably in the next week or so.
There were some things on the back end that had to be done to get that done. Chris has been working feverishly on that with our data team to get that completed for you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you guys very much and have a fabulous afternoon.
Great, thank you, Sue. So we are about 5 minutes early, so let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break, and we will come back here at 2:50 to talk about some best practices. So we'll see you at 2:50. Okay, we'll give everybody just a minute here to get back from break, and then we'll start wrapping up. Okay, so we are right at 2:50. Before I forget, I wanted to remind everybody again to please submit the evaluation that Connie had sent out. She mentioned it earlier, that Word document. It really helps us know how to plan and know what you guys need from us. So please make sure to fill it out. And we want to launch into best practices. So I think Eric has someone he is hoping to hear from, so I will put him on the spot.
Okay, no problem. Thanks, Aaron. I also want to, Karen asked for it. And so out there on the chat, I put that link for the 2021 TSTM, that virtual conference. So it's out there. If anybody wants to, again, register for that, it's free. And so again, June 15th and 16th, a good way to help our faculty become better professional development. So I'm going to turn it over. One of the things we got the chance to do recently, Aaron and I did an IELCE, hey, how are things going? And talked to different programs across the state. And so I don't know if she's on, but I want to start off. There's multiple people I'd like to hopefully jump in, not only about IELCE, but just about things that are going on with your program. One of the questions I asked was, hey, because of COVID, how did you react and what did you do? And so Faye at Seward County, if Faye could jump on and just kind of tell us what they did to assess what was happening with their students and their program and what she was able to do about it. So Faye, I'm gonna turn it over to you for a PD, for a best practice.
Okay, good afternoon. Okay, so when COVID hit, or before COVID hit, my entire staff were already talking about what are we going to do. We have a small building and we have these people and we have people who will just get in. So my staff actually started having ideas and all that. And we did automatic in days, photocopied papers and planned to form to give packets outside. And so we did it even if it was too cold. We started before the third quarter, which is March 9. And then every 2 weeks or every week, excuse me, we have a ready packet for them. It's drive-through. We send it through USPS. And if teachers can't come in, we have the postal service helping us, and teachers will pay on their own for a while, and then I would ask for reimbursement. And after that, we transferred to a bigger building just to accommodate for more students, although the enrollment was low. And I was able to hear some of the grant that's available, and I wrote a certain grant which is very specific for technological use of our students, which is very, very vital. And so the language, because English is also my secondary language, and I have heard from different seminars, conferences, and all that, that if you're an immigrant, you usually have 3 to 5 years to really understand American language and all of that. It's always hard understanding your language. Sometimes I have to translate. And so I've written the grant. It's very simple, and and I'm very proud to show it to you guys. It's worth, and I hope this doesn't put me in a bad situation. It's a CARES grant, which gave me an amount, which is a big amount, all for technological use. So all of my faculty has brand new laptops. The students has all tablets in each room. We have interactive TV. We moved to a bigger building that has 3 floors. Even part-time has laptops. And it's just so amazing how people can just throw ideas, and then make learning so accessible at these very crucial times. So yep, and I want to make sure it's correct. So we had the proof of payment down to the very last penny, and I submitted it to whoever's concerned, so that if ever I get audited under my name, even if somebody else is going to be the director, if ever, there'll be no problems. So again, it's somebody from you guys just told me when I was starting, you have to do what you think is good without thinking about what other people will say. So that's it.
Well, Faith, thank you for that. And I'm sure we've got some other people in the, in this Brady Bunch type chat box, what it looks like, who have written grants before. And we know that grants, can really help our programs. So I don't know if that was your first time ever writing a grant, Faye, but congratulations on doing it. And also it was a success, and you're able to use the money to use technology means to enhance your faculty as well as help students. So that's great. So those are the type of things that we want to share across the state. So if people have questions for Faye, I'm sure she'd be willing to help. And I know she's like, I don't know about that, but I'll be willing to help you as best she can. So Hector's doing a round of applause. So a round of applause, Faye. Great job as far as writing a grant and helping people. Anybody else want to jump in on what Faye has done or something that you've done in regards to, dealing with this pandemic? And we can share across the.
Eric, I'd like to.
Sure, go ahead, Sherry.
So tomorrow during KAEA, one of my instructors, Sally Vu, and I are giving a presentation on something called IDEA, which is Integrated Digital English Language Acceleration. We had a lot of training from Washington State and the iBest program. So if you are an ESL instructor or you're a director that has some ESL students, this was, we had 100% gains from this group during the pandemic because they were able to seamlessly transition to online. So if you're interested in that, we have that. I believe it's tomorrow morning.
Wow, thanks, Sherry. Thank you for sharing that. That's impressive. So, and that's obviously something new. I mean, is it a stretch for you as far as going through that training?
Yes, we started that in 2018 when Washington State, their community colleges started the program. It was through the Bill Gates Foundation. And I had training during 2019, and then we started it in the fall of 2019, and we've continued it. So it is, it's incredible. So if you're interested in it and knowing a little bit more, come to our session tomorrow.
Great. What a segue, what a hook. Good job.
Hey, Eric, this is Hector, and I just wanted to jump into what Sherry is sharing here with us with the idea. We have the opportunity to be working with Jody as one of the ones that they're doing this project from Washington State. And this helped us move into the showcase to our community college or supporting institution to provide the canvas. Now we're using the canvas from the institution as a support for our classes across the board, GED and ESL. But the idea is a full canvas-based instruction with all the assignments and all of that. And then I encourage everybody that is teaching ESL to look at this model, get all the training that they can gain, and then you can convert to your own once you have all the details. And I believe Jody will be a great asset. She is really open to provide some trainings then we can provide you the information, Eric, and that could be another professional development that the whole state can be part of. Once we have moved into the normal, maybe it will be great to have them here, because they were doing some trainings across the nation in 2018, 17, I think, when they have the grant. But I think this is more important now than ever.
Hector, thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, for all of us who have ESL students, to have multiple ways to reach our students and help them is important. Sherry put out there for everyone that idea is for low level. Okay, so.
Seward County went out and did that training as well a couple years ago, although I think probably Faye and I are the only ones left in our program that went through the training, but it was a useful program. There's some technology issues, obviously, in providing computers and access and all, but it is a good program.
Great, thank you, Bill, for jumping in. Appreciate that. Anybody else with a best practice or things that they're doing, in regards to COVID and reaching out to students that they want to share?
Eric, this is Debbie Kern with.
Hi, Debbie.
Hi. One of our partners, Riley County Police Department, missed our classes so much during the COVID era that they have purchased 6 laptops for their inmates, a laptop for the teacher, and an interactive flat panel so that we can continue doing classes if they should be under COVID or something similar.
That's great. That's great. Well, again, we talked earlier about having, partners, and there's, partners at a variety of levels within our own communities and across the state. One of the things that Hector has challenged me on, and I need to follow up with my boss, and here we are in a public forum, but Hector's like, we need to have a statewide IET team that we can rely on and work together to help students not only gain skills, but eventually then gain employment. And so I hear you, Hector, I hear you. And so we're trying to figure that out. So I
think someone just got a new assignment.
Yeah, I think so. But we gotta figure out, we gotta bridge those things. We've got to figure out how to help our students. So it's all good stuff.
Eric, this is Hector again. I think one of the best practices that we see on our program was to increase the weight of delivering classes, not only face-to-face when we can, once we open our classroom with the social distance, but also have those hybrid classes where the students are coming only a couple of days and the other days are taking those remotely. And also the total virtual remote classes, and having those 3 different options for students, I think that is helping us keeping our students engaged and have those enrollments with our students. And also having the remote testing is a big plus for us to do that.
Yeah. Obviously, COVID forced some of us to really, engage the online model, because that was the only way that we could still reach our students. And so sometimes that shove gets us into a walk, which can get us into a run. So that's really good. I don't want to put anybody, you just call them out random. I know there's good things going on at Johnson County. When we had our talk with them last week, they were talking about their nursing program and how they're working with their nursing program and doing different things. So we know that there's good things going on across the state. Does anybody have any other things they want to share about what they're doing so we can all learn from each other?
A couple of our teachers, this is Georgia from Johnson County, a couple of our teachers are giving best practices tomorrow for IELCE programs that we've worked with and had students enroll in. So they are also tomorrow morning. That is Linda Turbyfield and Olivia Clevenger, and they will be talking about all those programs tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'm signed up for that one. I'm looking forward to hearing what's going on there. So,
Actually, I think that one is at 2:30 tomorrow, just to make sure that you get the right one.
Yeah, it is at 2:30. My apologies. It's at 2:30.
No problem.
no problem. Well, again, this is a chance for us to share. And so we purposely put this in the agenda. We know that some of you are shy, and we know that some of you are not shy. And so we wanted to have this be an opportunity to just, again, share amongst each other, amongst all of us, as far as things that are going on. We missed the face-to-face, you know, there's no doubt about it, KAEA, and we hope that everybody can, if you choose to get your shot or whatever the normal, you know, the new normal will be, that eventually we can be face-to-face again in 2022, and that kind of just that interaction together of being a part of a team. Even though we're separated by distance, you know, we're all working in our own communities to help our students. So we hopefully 2022 KAEA will be back together, but we wanted to have this opportunity now to share what's going on, because we know that you two talk, everybody talks, and so we know there's a lot going on. Chris, anything from you, sir? You want to jump in?
Well, if nobody else has anything to share, now Zoom thinks I'm playing music, but it's our front door is getting installed. So I apologize to everyone for that. That's been a constant soundtrack to our lives for the last 2 months. I did have something I wanted to share. I would have liked to have called everyone personally, but it just worked out that I wasn't able to. But I will be leaving KBOR at the end of April in a full-time capacity. Kind of trying to work with Connie to get her to let me stick around to finish out a couple projects, maybe through the summer, sometime in August. But I wanted to let everyone know while we were all together that this would be my last KAEA and probably last director's meeting. So.
Really?
Yes, really.
I just want to say no.
Where are you going?
I agree
Several
with Kelly,
people.
that can't happen.
Several people have told me no. At least you're not Eric Tencher. And I told Eric on April 1st, and I told him in the morning because I wanted him to know. And he called me back after lunch and he said, "Oh, you sucker, you got me. You got me good." And he thought it was an April Fool's joke. But I'm going to be trying something outside of adult ed and higher ed for a bit, see how that works. Not trying to be vague, but I'll talk about it maybe a little bit more in the days and months. You can always reach out to me on Facebook or somewhere. And
Are you going to be a community college president?
I am not. I am not going to be a community college president. So.
Well, I
And I'm
hear
okay with that.
ICC is still looking. So there you
They
go.
are. But I'm still here to help. So anything you all need, reach out. But yeah, as we move forward, we'll be, you know, Aaron and Eric and Connie and everyone, Lisa, Sue. You guys are going to be in great hands. So.
Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Chris, you should have asked earlier. I would have let you have the virtual program in the alternative high school this year. I mean, and it wouldn't have taken too much for me to do that.
If you're listing off things I don't want, I don't. But thank you for the offer. I'm sorry I didn't check sooner.
Well, I would have retired finally if I'd known you were looking.
Mary,
exactly what you wanted to do.
I have been in adult education for almost 10 years now, and the first day I met you in Hutchinson, you told me you were retiring. The only thing that's changed is the number has gone down from 3 to 2. So I think in another 10 years you'll be at 1.
I think maybe 1. I'm at 1.
Are you at 1 now? Okay. Yeah. So you've got
maybe
2 to 3 years before you actually do it. But
yeah. but you'll be missed.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a tremendous amount of experience and just professionalism, and just I can certainly attest to as far as being in leadership positions like I am on the military side, that to be a follower under Chris has been a tremendous joy. Just such a learning curve, and so we're gonna have to rally and figure things out at the state level. I was hoping there, Chris, kind of give a, hey, this is what's going on, you know, as far as across the state, and a little, I don't know if you're gonna do it best practice, but there's that announcement. So that ended up working out the way it did. I don't know if Connie's still on, or if she wants to wrap this up, or Chris, if you want to wrap this up, or Aaron or Sue or somebody else. We didn't really talk about how we're gonna end the day here. So
I just wanted to say thank you guys. I know it's a lot of information today and you really hung in there with us. So we appreciate all your attention, your participation, and really just everything you guys do every day. You inspire us here at the state level. So thank you. Thank you all very much.
And thank you, my team. You guys have done an amazing job today. And thanks for everybody for hanging in there with us all day long. And we will see everyone soon.
Wonderful. Take care, everyone. We'll see you over the next couple. See you over the next couple days.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, guys. Meow. Is that the same cat that always gets in? Oh, did he go off?
He's off. But yeah, I think it is.
It's the same one.
Great job, Sue.
Yeah. Well, good job, Aaron, on keeping on
Thank you.
time.
Thank you for the shout out. I appreciate that.
So take care.